Welcome into another edition of The Session with Londa and David. My name is David Austin.
I'm Londa Sherwood Austin. Welcome back.
You look spectacular today, honey.
Thank you.
And I know everybody doesn't see you every day, but that thing you wore yesterday where you were dressed as kind of one of the Duttons from Yellowstone, super, super hot.
I wore a flannel shirt and a pair of jeans.
And boots. It was just great. It was Halloween when you were wearing that.
I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean, I wasn't dressed up like a cowboy. I was just cold, so I wore a flannel shirt. But I kind of have a little Western theme going today, too.
You do.
So.
You absolutely do. And sticking with the Yellowstone spirit, I think you look like the governor lady who's now a U.S. senator. And,
I don't know.
Yeah, on a casual night out with Kevin Costner.
I've got my jeans and boots and my turquoise, so maybe, I don't know.
I like it. The Session with Londa and David is a business podcast that focuses on the three things that we're most interested in. What are those, Londa?
Retail sales, restaurants, and, of course, real estate.
Well, and we talk about this stuff all the time because we are longtime salespeople and coaches.
Yep.
We've coached salespeople from multiple industries. Mm-hmm. You were telling somebody yesterday that when you were the mom coach, you've coached over 1,000 parents.
Oh, I've coached thousands of parents.
In how to raise their kids with strategies that are personalized for their families.
Yeah.
I mean, we've done that stuff for a long time. Plus, we've been in food service. Both of us have been in food service.
Both were raised in restaurants.
That's exactly right. We've both worked in fine dining and fast food. I mean, we've done all of that. Mm-hmm. And we are both licensed realtors with the fine folks at Sherwood Austin Real Estate Solutions.
We are the fine folks.
We are the fine folks at Sherwood Austin Real Estate Solutions.
Plus our creative director who has ditched us for this episode.
Because she had errands to run for Sherwood Austin Real Estate Solutions.
That's
we
right.
help you make all the right moves. And on top of that, I'm a licensed lender in the state of Washington, also licensed in Louisiana and Oregon.
Wow.
So there you go.
One-stop shop, SherwoodAustin.com.
Yep, SherwoodAustin.com will get you in touch with us for everything we do.
I will say, though, just as a tip, if you're not following me on social media, you should, because we're starting to put out some pretty, fun content.
I think all your social media stuff is cool. Super, super cool.
Yeah.
And, of course, you can find us on the TikTok.
Well,
doing
just
clips
search,
from this show specifically.
Yeah, so David Austin is on TikTok. If you want to find my page or whatever on TikTok, you can search Sherwood Austin, just like SherwoodAustin.com.
That's right.
Just search Sherwood Austin. You'll find me. And, So,
and The Session with Londa and David is on YouTube. Okay, with all of that out of the way.
Yeah.
New month, new you. Mm-hmm. And we always talk about what you do at the very beginning of the month is what you do all month long. And we're hitting the ground running in the month of November.
Yes.
What's going on? What do we need to talk about today?
Oh, well, one thing that I want to talk about is how speed wins.
Okay.
And that is true of almost always of all three of the things we talk about: retail sales, restaurants, real estate.
Speed always wins in those three things and in most things in life.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If you're the kid that doesn't try to run and play hard in PE, you're going to be the kid that gets picked last in sport activities in PE. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I learned when I was young that it was way more fun to be picked first than be picked last, because being picked last sucks. And that philosophy works
my life.
Everywhere in your life.
Yeah.
If you're out working and out grinding your competitors, you will win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's funny how that goes, right? A saying that I heard in my early sales days is luck is spelled WORK.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and, it's funny. It's funny. Success leaves clues and all those kind of things. Right. So, I've been lucky enough to have a lot of really great mentors in sales my whole life. I've been doing sales training for longer than I want to admit at this point. And so I just love it. I love everything about it. But I will always say, if nothing else, be fast. Be fast to greet people. Be fast to answer your phone. Be fast to get information. Be fast to respond back to people. You know, if somebody sends you an email and you have to, or a text, or a call, and you have to do a little bit of research to get them the answer, respond immediately and let them know. Going to do some quick research, and I'll get right back to you when I have an answer for you.
Oh, I love that.
Because that is part of the speed, right? Some people would maybe not respond until they have an answer. That's a mistake, I think, because, you know, people want to know, they want to be seen and heard. That never changes.
Right.
I don't care what the sales temperature is, you know, because there's always new things that come about in the sales world. There's new techniques and all that kind of thing. I don't care what it is. People don't change, really. Everyone wants to be seen and heard. They want to be understood, and they want information, and they want it now. Nobody wants to wait. I've been amazed at the times when I've talked with people who want to list their house, and they want to know what their value range is. And they ask me if I can get that information for them. And I say, yeah, that'll be no problem. When can I get that back to you? And they said, well, I know it takes a little time. What do you need, like a week? No, I need like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And somebody listening might say, well, you're not doing a thorough job. Come watch me. Come watch me. I've just done so many. I'm fast, right?
And being able to use your resources effectively makes a big difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
if you're
absolutely.
an early adopter to technology, for instance, you might have a leg up on somebody else.
You absolutely will.
I made a presentation for a law office about a week ago, and I was able to do it in 10 or 15 minutes because I had already made the presentation before and done all the legwork. I just had to customize it for that law office with my current mortgage company.
And that's where you come into the beauty of systems. Right? Because systems are duplicatable. People are not.
That's right.
You know, nobody will ever have the same sauce that you have.
Right.
But systems are duplicatable, and so create systems to make your workflow faster, more efficient, smoother. And then you're the secret sauce, of course, but when you have those systems in place, you can duplicate those systems. So, for example, our creative director, who is getting licensed with her real estate license, as soon as she gets licensed, she will start learning some of my systems because there are things that don't need my sauce on it. You know what I mean? On the back end of things that she can duplicate.
Like entering in listings and doing things like that.
But it'll all be fast.
Yeah.
I can tell you that.
That's right.
So I just think speed wins. Along those same lines, someone shared with me this morning that D.R. Horton, which is the largest builder in America.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
They're about twice as large as the former largest Lennar.
Okay. So D.R. Horton there was an article that came out this morning, and they were sharing that they've sold greater than 96,000 homes in the fiscal year. And that comprises about, I think it was 14% of the market, or looking at it this way, almost 1 in 7 of every single family residence sold in America this year was a D.R. Horton home. And one of the reasons why they get that kind of market share is because they are fast.
That's right.
They are fast, they are efficient, and not just the build. The build is fast, the sales system is fast, the people, their salespeople are fast. They've made the process simple. I mean, it speed wins every time, and the product pretty good.
And here's the thing about it. You don't get 4 million different choices when you go to D.R. Horton. You get these houses. Here are the ones we've built. Or you can have one that's to be built. What colors do you get? You get the light or the dark. That's it. That's the whole deal. Oh, you want the dark? Okay, we can do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't have 79,000 options, and you don't go down to Cost Less Carpet and pick out the tile. You don't do any of that.
Right.
It's just, here's what we build. Do you like it? Great. Sign here.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, that takes buyer fatigue out
Absolutely.
of the equation. You know,
Yeah.
people often get overwhelmed when they're buying real estate
It's
because
very easy.
many realtors let the customer find 77 houses on Zillow,
Right.
and then they just go see 77 houses. And I think that is a mistake. What you need to do with your customer in any sales arena
Right.
is do a full needs analysis and help narrow the choices to get people
Yeah.
exactly where they want to go. And then they avoid the buyer fatigue.
Yeah.
You might have it as the salesperson because you're weeding stuff out that does not fit their criteria.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And most people that works really well for. You do have the occasional client who it doesn't work. And the reason that I know this is I'm that client.
Yes.
I'm the worst when shopping for a home.
Unless you're doing
specifically.
it with me, because I say things like, okay, get ready. Today we are buying a home.
Yes, but the specifics of it, you know, do I want a 2-bedroom, 2, 3, or 4? It depends on how it's laid out. We can make it work.
Right.
How many square feet do you want? Oh,
Sure.
I don't know, anywhere from 1,200 all the way up to 2,800, because again, it depends on how it's laid out. Do you,
Right.
you know what I mean? So I know that I am the worst kind of client to
Sure.
have, and I kind of do this whole like, well, I'll know it when I see it kind of thing.
Right.
So there
And do
are
you know
there
why
are
you're
those
that
people.
client? Because you don't have a salesperson who does a full needs analysis for you.
But
you have people who defer to you because you're a realtor.
But also, if I had to answer the questions I ask people, I don't know that I could.
Oh, that's interesting.
For me, honestly, I don't mean to be, you know, too hippy dippy about it, but it is a feeling.
Okay.
So I say this because I also make space for those people too. I
Sure.
understand that maybe you don't quite know. And the truth is, no matter what a home buyer tells you they want in their initial, you know, intake appointment, your get to know you coffee or whatever you call it, no matter what they say, it could easily change along the way.
Sure.
They can shift. This is a process,
Yes.
you know? And so, I don't know.
And let
It's a
me tell
fun
you, it can be
process.
radical. We had a client that was excited to look at manufactured homes on rented lots and ended up buying a $317,000 stick-built house instead. Because
That was crazy.
Yeah. And the reason is because we let her dictate her timeline. And she got a better job during the search.
Mm-hmm.
And so she called us and said, you know what? Let's stop looking at these little guys. Let's go look at something else.
Yeah.
And it worked out great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But we knew from our initial intake the things she needed that were most important to her, and
Yeah.
it was space for her dog, a room for her DJ business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We knew what was most important to her, so it was easy to help her find what she wanted.
Yeah.
And that's the magic of sales. Listening more than talking
Right.
is the magic.
Right. You know, in retail sales in restaurants, it all is across the board, right? The speed thing.
Yes.
When I cut my teeth in retail sales I was in restaurants early, but then I went to work for Nordstrom.
Right.
And at 18 years old,
Yeah.
right? And they had great sales training, great leadership, great management. So that's kind of where I fell in love with the sales process. That was the beginning of it for me. And I remember, you know, one of the rules is within 60 seconds of a customer coming into your department, you greet them and you engage with them. And there was a system for engagement.
Right.
And you know, that lent itself to the speed thing, right? If I come into a restaurant of any kind, I want a hello, if nothing else. Hi, welcome in. It doesn't take a lot. If you're busy, if you're whatever, I just want a hi, welcome in. It's not that hard to do.
I was talking to one of our listeners last week.
Okay.
Who watched like 4 of our episodes back to back one night in the middle of the night. And he told me the one that made him laugh the most was our conversation where we did the restaurant review nobody asked for about Brothers Cheesesteaks.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you,
They just closed.
I wanted to burn that place down because we stood in the store looking at the board with
Asking
the
questions.
options, out loud talking about it to one another. And that lady stood across the room looking at us like we were crazy, never said hello, and never acknowledged we were there. Finally, 5 or 6 minutes into being in the place, I said, "Hey, can you help us?" I wanted to burn the place down. I'm
you don't
sad
need
that they
to.
just closed.
They just closed.
I'm sad that they just closed, but
I'm just saying.
that's the kind of thing that happens. Speed always wins, even if it's just a head nod and a wave.
Yep. We've got a friend here in town who are connected to the real estate world, but also they own 2 restaurants and a boutique, a clothing boutique, right?
Yep, that's right.
And one of the things they do in every one of their businesses is that speed, that greeting.
Yes.
Every time. And so I have to kudos to them, that they're training their staff to that.
And
it makes you feel welcome. You don't invite someone into your home without greeting them.
Right.
And it's the same kind of thing.
That's
if we're
right.
creating that kind of environment, and I'll tell you who's lost that completely is Starbucks, which is sad, But
okay, tell me more about that. They were the 3rd place. That was the slogan, and now they want to be in and out quick.
Now they're creating drive-through only stores.
Yeah,
they're shifting with their
competition.
Customers.
Their competition is pushing them that way, though. Because
but more and more people are doing mobile orders as well. And so you don't have as many people gathering, but it is kind of sad to see. Although in the wake of that, there's a resurgence of locally owned coffee shops. Right. In fact, I just sent a little card to a customer hoping to be a client that is relocating here from out of state. And she's super into coffee. And so I sent her a little card in the mail that says, "Be grateful for coffee" on the front. And then I hand wrote like my 5 favorite locally owned coffee places in town, the name of them and the address of each. And I said, "Hey, I know you love coffee. Check these places out. These are some of my favorites and have fun exploring," and shot that off in the mail yesterday. So
that's fun.
That is one thing about when you work with us, and not to plug us, but I'm going to.
Sherwood Austin Real Estate Solutions. We help you make all the right moves.
That's right.
That's a sponsor.
Yeah, that's true. But when you work with us, it's very holistic, right? We don't just care about the sale. We care about your experience where you live, right? So there was a customer recently that I'm just barely getting to know that told me, they're also same situation. They're relocating to the Tri-Cities, not familiar with the area.
Right.
But he's super into golfing. And so I put together a little informational thing all about the golf courses here in Tri-Cities and shot it off to him in the mail. And he texted me, he says, "Wow, thank you for the information about the golf courses," So I think your what's the quality of life?
Yes.
Your quality of living is something that we're always going to take into consideration as well.
Yeah.
Which is why in our get to know you thing that we do with our clients, it goes, deep. We want to know about you. I don't just want to know how many bedrooms and bathrooms do you want. I want to know how will you use that space. Do you have any hobbies we need to take into consideration?
Sure.
Do you have pets? Do you have children? Do you have someone else living with you that you know what I mean? There's all these questions that you need to really dig into so that you can get to know your people.
Yes.
And meet their needs. And do it fast.
Well, yeah. So I guess what we're talking about is not just that speed always wins, although speed does always win, but there's more to life than just being quick. Being careful, meaning caring for people, being careful, being caring, and listening, hearing, seeing your customer. Those are all critical things.
Now, all of these skills that we've talked about transfer to every relationship you have.
Absolutely.
Your marriage or partnership.
Yep.
Your relationship with the rest of your family,
Yep.
your children, your aunt and uncle, your cousins, your whatever, your coworkers. All of this is transferable to all those different relationships.
Well, that's true, right? And we talked early on in this program about kind of our histories. When I was a kid, I got trained in retail first. My first real job was at a store called Chess King, which is a men's trend shop. And they're gone now. They were owned by the Melville Corporation that also owned Eckerd Drugs. They owned a ton of stuff. Well, they're gone now because 80s and 90s men's fashion is gone. It's just gone now. Yeah. So they've moved along. But I got my initial training there. I grew up in Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurants and did not love that. That was my first job, but my dad taught me a really good lesson when I went to him and said, Dad, your manager Wilfred is giving me a ton of trouble. I don't love it. I don't want to do that. And he said, well, you need to get another job before you can quit. And let me tell you, that was a scary thing.
Great advice, though.
But what I did was I said, because I know my dad's a smart guy, I said, well, Dad, what do I do? What's the best way to do that? And so he had me
there we go.
Get a suit and tie, go to the mall, and he said these words to me, David, here's what you do. You go into every store and you ask to speak with the manager. Don't ask if you're hiring. Don't ask for an application.
Right.
And when the manager comes walking out of the back and walks up to you, stick out your hand and say, I want to be a part of your team.
Now, some people would say, well, that won't work today. So I'm going to tell you a story I heard last night.
Okay.
I talked to a gentleman last night who has just recently gotten a new position that's a really good position.
Okay.
And I said, well, how did you get into that line of work? And he said, well, I had a friend who was doing that kind of work and his car broke down and he needed a ride to work every day. I had to take him to work and I had to pick him up from work every day. So every day when I went, and this was like last year, every day when I went to take him to work, I got out and I talked to the supervisors. And every day when I came and picked him up, I got out of my car and I talked to the supervisors. And I just kept talking to them and kept asking for a job every single day, morning and night, until about 2 weeks into it, they were like, okay, fine, we'll give you a shot.
I love that.
So people who would say, oh, that doesn't work, it does. Well, they only accept online applications. Okay, that might be true, but let me tell you how you get your online application moved to the front. I mean, why not let me just say this, why not hit it from every angle?
Yes.
Do the online application and go in. And it doesn't always work, you know?
Well, and what they wanted you to do then was go in and ask if they're hiring and ask for an application. That's what kids were trained in vocational classes in high school to do. My dad said, don't do that. Ask for the manager, stick out your hand and say, I want to be a part of your team. And I walked into, count it, one store.
Right.
I went into one store, did that.
Yep.
The guy looked me up and down, had a quizzical look on his face and says, when can you start, kid? Nobody's ever done that to me. And stuck out his hand and shook my hand.
It's no different than social media. You have to figure out how to cut through the noise.
That's exactly right. And the reason I find that I don't lose customers is because I think every potential customer is a job interview, and I'm a great interview.
Right.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I've never interviewed for a job that I haven't gotten. Yeah. Never, not once. Because of my dad teaching me that.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to why I brought that up. I brought that up to talk about how I was trained. You know, you were trained in customer service right away. I was trained by, at one time, the two top new hire training organizations in America, McDonald's Corporation and Walt Disney Corporation. Mm-hmm. I was trained by both of them.
Yeah.
And the Disney values that I learned when I was a 17-year-old boy are in every part of my life still today. Mm-hmm. Every single thing.
Yep.
Isn't that interesting?
It is. I mean, you never lose that. I think everybody should, I saw it. I think everybody should work in the restaurant field at least once.
Yes.
Somewhere in restaurant, fast food. I don't care what it is, but everybody should. I saw a TikTok recently from a high-level executive who was saying, of the people that, run in her circle, all these high-level executives, 7-figure earners, all that, she said, you can tell the ones who worked in food service and the ones who didn't. There's some kind of customer service advantage that the ones who worked in food service have. And she's like, I can't really put my finger on it. I can't explain it.
Right.
But you can tell within a couple of minutes.
I gotcha.
I think that's very interesting.
I wonder what it is.
I don't know, but I can tell you, I feel the same way about somebody who's done either cold calls or door-to-door sales.
Right. Yeah, I think if you've sold Cutco knives or Rainbow vacuum cleaners door to door, you're probably a rock star. You know, we used to talk about the Fuller Brush salesman years ago, kids. This is way before the internet.
Gather around, children. Papa's got a story
Well,
to tell.
you see, it was years ago. These men came door to door selling brushes to clean your sundries. I don't know what that was about. I don't know. But anyway, those guys were hardcore salespeople. Yeah. And you told me a story about hardcore sales yesterday that it delighted me.
Which one?
From Mary Kay, where when you were having a new week, you were training, they would say, make calls until you get 100 no's.
Yeah, so it was get 100 no's this week. That was some sales training I had way back in the day in like 1995 from Mary Kay Cosmetics, and which great sales training, by the way. Talk about duplicatable system.
Sure.
Anyway, yeah, it was get 100 no's. That's all I want you to do. Get 100 no's. And looking back, it's because I was getting in my head. I was getting scared. So my leadership said, I just want you to focus on getting 100 no's this week. Mm-hmm. Well, that's easy to pick up the phone if all you're doing is just ticking off the no's, right?
Yes.
If you can get yourself in that mindset, man, it's so easy. So the next week, though, I told her, I said, man, I'm so sorry I didn't complete the challenge, right? Because I used to be very motivated by a challenge. I wanted to win. I wanted to be number one. I wanted to get all the recognition, and that's why that company worked well for me, because they're heavy on recognition. I'm not
heavy on income, but they're heavy on recognition.
I'm not like that anymore, but at that time I was, and so I said, I'm really sorry I didn't complete the challenge. You know, I got too busy with all the yeses, and she said, and that is the point of the challenge.
I love that.
So anytime you need business, look for 100 no's. Look for 10 no's.
Right.
I mean, set the number. I don't care what it is. I feel like in sales, we don't have big challenges like that anymore.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. People are afraid to do it or whatever. I remember when I was doing cold calls, I did for 2 years on an auto dialer.
Uh-huh.
Woo, that'll teach you some things. So it would auto dial these numbers, and if they picked up, it would connect you. And if you got voicemail, it would drop your pre-recorded voicemail in and keep dialing. I mean, it was fast-paced. I dialed for 3 hours every morning, starting at 5 a.m. 5 to 8 a.m. because then I was, homeschooling and I was raising kids and I was doing all that stuff. And you started with East Coast numbers, got into your system first, right? Which is why you started at 5 a.m. I'm on the West Coast. And I remember the goal was to do 100 calls a day.
Right.
100 calls a day. And I did. I hit that goal because I wanted, the results. I wanted the
boiler room style.
Oh man, it was crazy.
My buddy Rob Lindsay used to work for a mortgage company that was like that I think he was in California at the time, maybe Colorado, and they would go in and there were guys that did nothing but smoke cigarettes and grease back their hair and make phone
Wall
calls
Street
until
style.
they got loan applications.
Yep.
That's not my style of sales.
No.
My style of sales is way more relational, but you were doing that.
Let me tell you,
that's hardcore.
It'll teach you some things, and I only lost it one time.
What do you mean you lost it?
Oh, people are not kind.
Okay, tell me how you lost it. This is exciting.
Well, someone just started screaming me down. These weren't fully cold calls. People would fill out, like they'd be on the internet, and an ad would pop up, make money working from home, click here. And they'd click it, and it would ask for their name, phone number, and email address.
Okay.
And in real time, I would get those. So like 5 seconds later, my auto dialer is dialing them.
I gotcha.
Right? And so And then I would call and they would, get mad at me or scream me down. And I would say things like, well, I'm calling with the information you requested.
Yes.
I didn't ask for anybody, And one time a guy was so rude to me that I stood up from my desk so hard that my chair, because I wore a headset.
Sure. Like you're calling a Friday night football game.
You have to. So fast. My chair went flying across the room into the wall behind me, and I cussed him out like all the rage of my ancestors was coming through me in one moment. Because he was doing that to me, and I don't know. A switch flipped, and anyway. But that one time in 2 years of 100 calls a day, 5 days a week, it's not bad.
Yeah.
Don't push me because I'm close to the edge.
I'm trying not to lose my head.
Once every 2 years. There you go.
It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder why I keep from going under.
Oh, okay.
I keep from going under, I think, is actually what it says there.
We don't know. We make up our own lyrics here at Sherwood Austin Real Estate Solutions.
If you're ready to make all the right moves, give us a call at Sherwood Austin Real Estate Solutions. All you have to do if you want to find us is go to SherwoodAustin.com, and you can find out all about what we do: the real estate business, the lending business, the podcast, the consulting business. Everything we do is right there on SherwoodAustin.com. I got to tell you, this show was really fun today. The last thing I'm going to talk about is when you hear this, there may be a new president-elect in this country. Oh. And here's what I want you guys all to think about. Number one, go vote or quit your bitching.
Vote.
Go vote or quit your bitching. And number two, don't stress over the things you cannot control. What you can control are your opportunities. You can't control other outcomes that you're not involved in. So if you don't vote, don't bitch about who the president is. You know what I'm saying? I think that's good. Londa's holding up a sign that says vote. Very good. And that's VOTE, not VOGT, like our friends who own the restaurant.
Yes.
And are involved in real estate and lending.
Thanks for being here today.
For Londa Joanne Sherwood Austin, my name's David Austin, and this has been another edition of The Session with Londa and David. We'll see you next week.